Good morning. Welcome into Five Clubs for the final time of 2025 here on Golf Channel. Also PGA Tour Radio, that is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams, and you know this show is presented by Century Insurance. They are in the business of business insurance. For 120 years, they have provided knowledge and know-how to all of their clients. Evaluate yours with them, and they invest in golf in great ways. We did the rewind with the GIN program through the USGA yesterday, which they are very much involved with, not to mention their involvement with the First Tee as well. Golf Pride, the grip company that is the standard globally for players of all levels. And then finally, the apparel brand that is absolutely platinum. There is nobody better, because anything that you might need in your wardrobe for anything that you do, work or play, and specifically golf, they have it for you at all their retail stores and, of course, petermillar.com. Their support of this program every single day of 2025 has been invaluable for us to do what we do. 2 hours live for us today here on Golf Channel, our final show of the year. We need it, because we have some guests that are going to be joining us. The guy who won the Masters and completed their career Grand Slam, Rory McIlroy, will be on this program in less than 15 minutes. The man who won 2 major championships, who now sits on the doorstep himself of a career Grand Slam, potentially for the first time next year at Shinnecock at the U.S. Open, the #1 player in the world, Scotty Scheffler, will be on this program in the next hour. Keith Mitchell, who will be part of the broadcast of the Optum Golf Channel games tonight, is going to be on this program as he dips his toe into the waters of broadcasting. Shane Lowry, who won the Open Championship in 2019, who was the man who wrapped the putt in on the 18th green at Bethpage to retain the cup for Europe, will be on this program. And finally, the United States Ryder Cup captain this year, Keegan Bradley, will be on this program today. We got a lot to get to, but if you think we would neglect the dogs, not on the final day, and we got a little extra twist there. Plus, before we get into this program today and some thoughts and reflections on 2025 in the game of golf, a big announcement for us, because one of the primary things that we wanted to do this year was to try to prove over the course of time that we were going to cover everything in the game of golf, that it was going to be an industry show for you. Whatever was most important for you at some point was going to be talked about and treated and discussed, and we hope that we achieve that goal, but that's the primary objective as we head into 2026. But next year, for the first time, we want to get out and really connect with people who play the game of golf, who are passionate. And there is a place in the center of this country that just in a very short period of time has become as passionate a destination as anywhere, because on New Year's Eve, Landmand puts their tee sheet for the year online. And in about an hour, the tee sheet for the year is full. But next year, in the month of August, 5 clubs will go to Landmand, and we will embark on something with Will Anderson and his amazing staff there, and the people who had the vision to take a place with as much grand scale as anywhere you will ever go to play the game of golf. And we've created an event with Will and his great staff to bring people from every state in this country together to compete over the course of 3 days at that place in Homer, Nebraska. So for 3 days, from New Hampshire to Arizona to Idaho to South Dakota to New Jersey and Florida and Texas and Hawaii and the District of Columbia. Because when you go to the center, you're going to the heartbeat. So the heartbeat, August of next year, so in conjunction with the release of Landmand's tee sheet for the year, will be registration for you and a partner to represent your state wherever you're from. 1 team in each state. And we will go and we will play this competition. And by the way, 5 clubs will not only be there in terms of our staff, the show will originate live from there. So many of the people who are going to be participating in this competition will be seen and heard on this program live from a place that is hard to imagine until you see it. And we were lucky enough to go there this past summer. It is special. So again, we're going to remind you through our social channels over the next several days and the next several weeks as we get to New Year's Eve. And obviously registration, because every state, I can't imagine, I'd love to believe that every state will be represented before the bell comes down on New Year's Eve, ushering in 2026. But we're excited about this. We are thrilled that Will Anderson and his staff, which they've created something, and first of all, such credit to Rob Collins and Tad King and their unbelievable design team to carve out a golf course on this extraordinary piece of property. But to go there, and when we went there, look, we met people from all over. And it was James McCoy, who's part of the 5 Clubs team, who we left there, and he was like, I got this idea. Well, that idea is going to be reality in August of next year. So the heartbeat in the heartbeat of America at Landmand, 5 Clubs and Landmand. We're excited about that. All right, just a couple thoughts before we break, and then we'll be joined by the Masters champion, Rory McIlroy, to get some thoughts on not only this competition that he will captain one side tonight against Scotty Scheffler, but also talking about his year and what is it like to reflect on completing a career Grand Slam. And I'm going to ask him about those indelible moments that he can possibly remember, which I'm sure are going to stand up for the balance of his life. But let me just talk about a few things, starting with Scotty Scheffler, and then we'll talk a little bit about Rory. And there's a few other thoughts that I had about this year. If you look at the totality of what Scotty Scheffler did this year, he backed up one of the great productive years in terms of wins last year with a 6-win season that included 2 additional major championships that puts him, as I mentioned, now on the doorstep of his own career Grand Slam at a U.S. Open for the first opportunity next June at Shinnecock. 17 top 10s. His last non-top 10 finish was in the month of March, when he finished 20th at the Players. And then he started clicking them off, winning the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, coming to Charlotte and winning the PGA Championship, where he was feeling some real heat from the likes of Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau. And then he distanced himself, doing what only he can do, methodically taking apart pieces of the golf course that you have to take advantage of, as he did on the 14th hole and the 15th hole. Then he went on to the Memorial Tournament presented by Workday, obviously Jack's Place, and he won there. And then on to the Open Championship. And that is, if you recall at the beginning of that week when he spoke about the idea of how fleeting things can be in terms of the level of accomplishment and how finite those moments are for him as far as reflection and joy. And he said, you know, what's the point? And I think so many people misinterpreted what it was that he was saying. It wasn't that he wasn't fulfilled, but he was just being candid about how it is for him. Then obviously he went on, he won the BMW Championship. That was kind of the moment, kind of the Scotty, the inevitable moment when it looked like Robert McIntyre might snatch that one away from him at Caves Valley. And no. Across the green, that ball trundled it into the hole on the penultimate hole, and he polished that one off. And then, like many of the other members of the United States Ryder Cup team, made that final start for him after the Tour Championship, preceding the Ryder Cup. And he won the Pro-Core, which is what he does. He doesn't just show up to kind of show out. He shows up with one objective, an objective that we've not seen produced in terms of wins since Tiger Woods. He also won another Varden Trophy. He won his 4th straight Jack Nicklaus Award as the Player of the Year. And he finds himself in a space that has many people believing that he is in the middle of a window of production that has not been seen since the aforementioned Tiger Woods. He had the best year on the PGA Tour, and it is without question, it's really without debate. And again, 2 additional major championships. And then you counter that with the year of Rory McIlroy, that when you consider the historic nature of what he did, and then you add the personal nature of some of these accomplishments. He started his winning at Pebble Beach, where he had not won before, an iconic venue. And then he went on to the Players, a place that deprives him of taking advantage of his greatest weapon, his driver, showing a tactical side and going into that playoff on a Monday against J.J. Spawn and hitting that BB on the 16th hole to start that 3-hole aggregate playoff. and then on to the Masters. And he gave us the most exhausting roller coaster ride that appeared to be kind of a trapeze artist without a harness and a net, forcing him into that playoff, and it looked like it was over. And then it wasn't, and then it was, and then it wasn't. And it was over. We were going, I'm so disoriented. Did he really win? And he did. And then the balance of the year was interesting. It was an interesting examination on the human condition. When you do something that took so long to do, I'm sure there was moments of pause, not thinking, what else is there? But it took him a little bit of time to recalibrate and get himself back into a position where he could really dig in. And as I said after he won the Masters, look, I think that there are correlations that could be made to him winning and completing the career Grand Slam in 2025 to Tiger winning the Masters in 2019. Let's remember, like Rory, it had been 11 years since any major championship victory. The U.S. Open in 2008 to the 2019 Masters. And people thought Tiger was going to go to Bethpage and just go right from base camp right to the summit again. Wasn't going to happen. So similarly with Rory, it took him a little bit of time, but when he got his bearings and was ready to pull up his bootstraps, he added the Irish Open, an intensely personal victory for him in front of people that have devoted their entire young lives and old lives to living and dying with every one of his shots. And then, of course, he put a bow on it by being the centerpiece of that European Ryder Cup team when he was the one in Rome that laid down the marker after they won there in their press conference collectively, and he said, we're going to Bethpage and we're going to win. And they did. That is a season that will stand up in terms of its historic measure with so many of the great seasons that we have seen in golf, not only in our lives, but the ones that are chronicled in books that have dust on them. All right. When we continue, the aforementioned Rory McIlroy will join me. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And a little bit later on, Scotty Scheffler, Keegan Bradley, Shane Lowry, Keith Mitchell, not to mention a reflection from us on our year here doing something I love that couldn't be done without the support of so many people and dogs, because that's how we're walking out with dogs. Great to have you with us. Our final show of the year at 2025. 5 clubs here on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio Sirius XM, Channel 92. Rory McIlroy with me next. Back in on 5 clubs, final show of the year here at Golf Channel, and of course PGA Tour Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 92. This segment brought to you by Golf Pride, the best materials, the best products, trusted by the most players around the world, the global leader in grips. Joining us now, he completed their career Grand Slam. He won at Pebble. He won the Irish Open. He won the Players. The centerpiece of the European Ryder Cup team, won his 7th Harry Vardon Trophy on the DP World Tour. But tonight, if Team Rory does not win the Optum Golf Channel games, I think it's fair to say the grade for his season, B, B-. Rory, isn't that fair?
I actually don't think that's fair, Gary, but I'm happy to hear the argument from your side.
I'll make no argument. It's one of the most magical, personal, historic seasons ever. But let's start with tonight in this event. Yep. I know you're an observer of all sports, and so I'm curious as to why you think this format, the way it's constructed, the way you guys are going to execute this, why do you think this will work?
Yeah, so as you said, I think we're trying to take from a few different sports here. So you think of the home run derby in baseball, the 3-point contest in basketball, and the combine in the NFL. I think it's a way for us to showcase our skills in a different environment. I think sometimes when we play tournament golf, I don't always know if the viewer at home really appreciates just the skill level of the top guys that play professional golf. So I think to be in an environment like this where you're doing target challenges and time challenges and really testing all aspects of the game, but in a different way. It might give the the viewer a different appreciation for just how good all these guys are, but then also it's going to be fun for us. It's fun for us to be put in a different environment, be told to hit certain shots, different trajectories, hit shots at certain speeds. So I think that's going to be the fun part, and hopefully, I know all the players are excited about it, so hopefully it resonates with everyone at home.
Rory, you said time. You like to get on with it, but this is time crunch. You're being timed. What do you think is the key to precision and being under the pressure of time?
Yeah, I would say we even with like with TGL, we tried to bring a shot clock in there.
Yep.
It's speed of decision making at the end of the day, I think, and it's commitment to the shot that you want to hit. I think sometimes when professional golfers struggle the most is when they're presented with so many different options and so many choices, and they have so much time to think about what they want to do. I think in some ways having less time, it takes the choice paradox out of your hands, and you sort of really have to rely on your first instinct, which I'd say most of us would do well with relying on our first instinct when we're on the golf course.
Rory, when we started, I mentioned all these seminal experiences / accomplishments that you put together this year, but I also know that you've worked very hard to not look at events as pass, fail. They're outcomes. But with outcomes comes, how do you accept outcomes? How have you gotten better considering the things that you got so close to over the last couple of years, and then obviously what you did this year, primarily Augusta National, to get to a place where acceptance is something you can not only say and say it well, but live with it?
Yeah. I think the only way to get to that point of acceptance of the outcome, no matter what happens, is you have to go through it. And I think I've lived that, whether it be the close calls that I've had, even just recently, St Andrews in 22, LACC in 23, Pinehurst in 24. And I think the thing that I learned from those, I talked about this even going into the Masters this year. I call them heartbreaks. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but disappointments. And you wake up the next day on that Monday morning, and you realize that life goes on, and maybe if you can look at the positives and try to learn from the negatives, that you can go on and use that to your advantage. And I think the word resilience gets thrown around a lot, but I think all resilience is the ability to have a short memory and the ability to have hope for the future. And that's what I've had. I've been able to forget about my, the previous disappointments. And then I've always been the eternal optimist, and I've always had hope that my day would come and that I would achieve what I wanted to achieve. And it's been sort of, people have put that resilience narrative around what I've done. And yeah, I would say I've been resilient from that, but it's not, I wouldn't say I'm the mentally strongest person in the world, but I am the most optimistic. And I get that from my dad, Jerry. And, I always believe that good things are going to happen. And I feel like that one thing I have done well is I've always tried to be the eternal optimist.
I don't know if you've seen, there's a 17-minute mashup on YouTube of every shot from the final round of the Masters. I watched it twice over the last couple days. There's no commentary. So it's just the boom mics and 17 minutes from shot to shot with some reacts, and then they move on. And it's not like I forgot anything, but I'm prefacing this question by bringing that up because do you think that there are 2 or 3 indelible moments, and it could have been the swings, it could have been the moments before or after, that will stand up forever for you?
Yeah, I think there are. There's a few moments within that round that stand out. I think even the massive swing in the first few holes. So if you think about, I was 2 ahead standing on the first tee. I was 1 behind standing on the third tee. I was 1 ahead standing on the fourth tee, and then I was 3 ahead standing on the fifth tee. So just that, from being 2 ahead to 1 behind to 3 ahead, like just that massive swing. And, the 2 birdies on 3 and 4, if I don't, especially on 3, I think if I don't make that birdie on the third hole on Sunday, I honestly don't think I go on to win. That was a huge moment in that round, just to get me back from what a tough start it had been. And then there's a few others. I mean, the shot on 7, and then again with the advantage of hindsight, I probably, it's probably a shot I shouldn't have taken on, but in the moment, I felt like it was one that I could. I felt like it was a shot I could get on the green and somehow give myself a chance for birdie. But I think my big moments came in sort of, the birdie on 3 and 4, the birdie on 9 and 10. I talk about this story a lot. Bryson and I were very close in terms of like who was going to go first or who was going to putt first. Ultimately, it was decided that I would putt first and I was away. I held that putt for birdie. Bryson missed his putt for birdie, and I felt like that was just a big momentum swing in the round as well. Going into the back 9, just having birdie the 9th hole and feeling good about myself. And then obviously what happened on 13 and 14. It was a round with so many swings and emotions and such a roller coaster. But I'd say one of the most underrated, and then you talk about the shots in 15 and 17, but I think the most underrated shot of the whole day was my tee shot into 16. That was that wasn't the traditional Sunday hole location. And I was worried about that shot all day. I felt like that was going to be a pivotal point in the tournament. Obviously paying homage to Jack's win in 1975, the 50th anniversary. But for whatever reason, that pin up on that top right shelf on 16, I was sort of worried or uneasy about it all day, and I made one of my best swings into that hole, a 3/4 8 iron. I didn't end up making the birdie, but that was one of the best swings of the day after what had happened on 15. And yeah, like there's I could sit and talk to you about that round of golf for the next 2 hours. I know we don't have that time, but there's so many things I'll remember about that day. But it's when I look back on my career, I don't think I'll have a more memorable round of golf than that one.
You provided one of, if not the most memorable round of golf for millions of people, which is amazing. And only you can say what you said about the third hole. But that ball ran up the ridge. You were a yard to a yard and a half from that ball climbing onto the green off the tee. And then it collected back down into one of the most devilish little second shots that you had to hit. And then you're above the hole and you sneak that in. And look, like you said, we could talk about it for hours. Let me ask you about Scheffler, the guy who will be the captain of the other team tonight. I know that you have great, affection for him and admiration as well. What do you think is his most valuable trait?
I think his most valuable trait is his indifference he's indifferent to celebrity, I guess would be the easy way to say it. He wants to be a golfer. He does very little outside of his realm. He lives what from the outside looks like a very simple life. He has his family and he has golf, and he's very adamant about that. I think when you get into this position in the world of golf or in sport, you are pulled in so many different directions, and I think Scotty has been so disciplined in saying, no, this is what I want to do and this is what I want to focus on. And then I think because of that, you can see that in his results and the consistency of his results. So I think he's got a great structure around him. He's got a great family, obviously. But then on the golf course, he just doesn't make mistakes. He knows that if you're going to play 72 holes, he's not going to make many mistakes, and you're going to have to beat him. And to beat him, you're going to have to take on some risk. And I think what happens is people, and I've found this as well playing with Scotty, you feel like you have to take on more risk to beat him because you just feel like he's not going to make a mistake. And if you look at the stats on the PGA Tour, he leads in a lot of different statistical categories, but one of the ones that he's high up on is bogey avoidance. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of his game.
I think Jack is the better comp to the point you just made. And I get the whole Tiger thing because of the things that he's done, stats and all that. Jack will tell you, and you know this because you spent so much time with him, if you're good enough, consistent enough, you put pressure on the others to take stuff on that they're either not comfortable doing or because they feel they have to because they know you're not going to make a blunder, which gets me to this. The things that you still want to do, I know that there are particular things that you want to do. I think winning a U.S. Open, another one, is vitally important because of you win it early, then you kind of had this drifting period, and then you started to build again. And I asked you the question at Oakmont about where the record has come from over the last 5 years, and you invoked something I thought was interesting. You said it's partly ego-driven. I know that I can be one of the best U.S. Open players. So at Shinnecock, you love that part of the world. Scheffler, coincidentally, would be going for their career Grand Slam. Give me a thought about the priority of another U.S. Open.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I won a U.S. Open very early on in my career that, in all honesty, felt more like a PGA championship in the way the setup was. I won with 16 under par. I did win by a lot, but it was sort of soft that week in DC. And I would love to win a U.S. Open in what we would consider typical U.S. Open conditions. I think just to prove to myself that I can do it. I was obviously very close at LACC. It was very close at Pinehurst. And Shinnecock will provide another example of what we would call typical U.S. Open conditions. So, as you said, I love golf, out east in Long Island, and Shinnecock's one of my favorite golf clubs in the world, one of my favorite golf courses in the world. Obviously, that's where Scotty will be going for his career Grand Slam. So, if we both play well at that tournament, that I hope we both do. Then we could be in for one of the more exciting golf tournaments of 2026. But US, I've won a couple of PGAs. I'd love to win a couple of US Opens. Another Open Championship is something. Look, the major championships are so important, and now that I've finally gotten over that hump of winning my fifth one. I want to sort of keep that run going. But as you say, Shinnecock in whatever that is, 9 or 10 months time or 8 months time is going to be very exciting.
All right, I know that Courtney Holt, when she says wrap, I don't normally defy her. We're going to do this in 60 seconds. 5 questions for Rory McIlroy to go. The favorite golf hole you played this year? The favorite hole, doesn't have to be competitive golf. What's the favorite golf hole you played this year?
Favorite golf hole I have played this year? The 7th hole at Victoria Golf Club in Melbourne.
Excellent. All right, the sporting event in America you've never been to that you want to go to?
The Super Bowl.
Okay, the show that you and Eric are binging right now?
We're binging 2 different things, but I'm binging Landmand.
Very good. All right, the best book you read this year?
The Art of Spending Money.
And lastly, the wine you will serve at the Champions Dinner has been chosen, and what's the label?
Most likely 1990 Chateau Lafite Rothschild. It's the wine that she and Lowry very kindly brought back to the rental house on the Sunday night of Augusta.
Hey, listen, congratulations on such a special year, personal year, rewarding year. Have fun tonight. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, Gary. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
There is Rory McIlroy again tonight, the Optum Golf Channel games. 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30. Then we'll get started. We take a break, continue our final show of the year right after this. Back in on 5 Clubs, our final show of the year. on this Wednesday. Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, that is Sirius XM Channel 92. This segment brought to you by Century Insurance. They invest in golf, but they want to invest in your business because business insurance is what they've been doing for 120 years. All right, joining us now, he was the United States Ryder Cup captain. He is part of Team Scotty tonight. So Scheffler flips the deck on Keegan Bradley. Will you listen to Scheffler tonight, or will you do to him what he probably did to you, which was tune you out at Bethpage?
Whenever Scotty says something, I listen to every word.
You know what, Keegan, I asked him, like, what's his captaincy going to be like? Are you going to bark at these guys? He's like, no, I'm going to be a silent leader. What is, like, how do you make tonight good? Not only for you guys, I know you'll have fun. You just did the Skins game. How will this be effective for television, do you think?
Well, you know, when the cameras are on and the lights are on and we have an opponent, especially when it's, you know, a bunch of Europeans that just beat us, we're going to go out there and be competitive and try to, you know, beat them. You know, we're competitors. So, you know, whether it's the Masters or the Golf Channel games, the Skins game, you know, we want to go out there and win, and we'll want to do that tomorrow.
So I look at the mustache, and it's perfection. I mean, it really is. I don't know whether you're Magnum PI or you're trying to get an out in the eighth inning for the Red Sox, because you look like the guy in the pen who can get a righty out. Does your family like the stash?
My boys hate it. My wife doesn't mind it. I don't know. I'm kind of into a little different look. Maybe I'm trying to hide.
All right. Before I let you go, I got to ask you about the Pats. But let me ask you about this year. Is it a challenging thing for you to separate all of the things that went with the Ryder Cup experience as the captain from a really good, productive playing season?
Yeah, the productive playing season is not even on my radar, to be honest with you. It's you know, my coach said the other day, he goes, you know, you won last year, and I'm like, doesn't matter. It just doesn't. It's secondary to what, you know, was really important to me. And you know, I am very proud of that year because I feel like no one really in the history of the game has gone through sort of what I went through. I really had that sort of epiphany halfway through the year. And I'm really, really proud of that. But, you know, there's this thing that happened at the end of the year that takes precedent, and it's a bummer, that's for sure.
You know, Keegan, you've always been, and I've covered your whole career, a very graceful and willing participant with the media. But all of those interludes, all of those media sessions had to do with you and your performance. And then you embark on something which was a ton of media. What did you learn about yourself, about talking about others a lot and talking about things that were bigger than yourself a lot?
Well, I learned that, there's nothing more. I can handle pretty much anything and still play good golf, is what I sort of came away with. It being exhausted in the playoffs, physically and mentally exhausted, I still was able to perform. So I really take that away from this. There's nothing that can be thrown at me that is going to be more time consuming, more exhausting than this past year, and I still was able to perform. The other thing I loved being the Ryder Cup captain. I loved chatting with the guys. I used the example of, you know, before this year I would walk into player dining and I would try to look at where I could hide in the back. And then now I walk into player dining with my head up looking, who can I go sit and chat with? And it's just a big transformation, and I'm very grateful for that.
You know, a lot of people have said, you know, he should do it again, and I totally get it. And I'm not asking you whether you've been asked to do it again, but I'm just going to tell you my viewpoint on it. I think that you should be on another Ryder Cup team. And of all places in Ireland, for you to have an opportunity to participate and be one of those 12, which it was totally reasonable for you to be one of the 12 this time. Is that something that seems, at least right now, like is the more likely or plausible thing?
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing about Ryder Cup captain is, you know, you can't work really. I'm going to work really hard and become Ryder Cup captain, or I'm going to work really hard and be on the Ryder Cup team or win a major. So, like, a lot of this is out of my hands. I will say that there's definitely a hole in my soul from this, and I would love to cover that up someday. I would like to play again. I would love to be captain again, but that's not really how this works. And, I was Ryder Cup captain this past year, never knowing that this was ever going to happen until I got the phone call. And, if I get the opportunity someday, that'd be great, but that's most likely not going to happen. And maybe I can go make another team and do it on my own.
Last thing on the whole Ryder Cup thing, obviously you're abundantly aware of what Justin had to say about the whole appealing to the agronomy team and everything. Give clarity to that, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really weird thing because the crew, the superintendent and the crew at Bethpage Black, I've never seen the course in better shape. It was so stunning. Everything that they did, there wasn't a blade of grass out of place. There really wasn't. I was so proud that Bethpage showed out like that because they did such an incredible job. They, the grass, the course was perfectly, because there's so much play at Bethpage Black that, I've never seen it that great. It was perfect. I do think that throughout the week, the greens didn't get as fast as we would have wanted them. But listen, this is sports. Like, you gotta, there's sometimes, you're playing on a surface that's, got to be maintained every day, and you never know how that's going to happen. And the greens at Bethpage are so flat that, if there's growth, the greens slow way down. And, so the people of Bethpage Black and the grounds crew, they just did such a great job, and I don't want to take that away from them.
All right, last thing, let's get to the Patriots. Tough one, up 21 on Buffalo. You were there a couple of weeks ago. They're having a tremendous run. Drake's been phenomenal. Baltimore this weekend. It's really not even essential. They can lose to Baltimore in the last two, still win the division. Give me an overall thought with the last 3 weeks to go here.
Well, it's so fun. The world feels normal again. I'm able to like this is what the world's supposed to be like. The Patriots are good and everyone else loses. But to be honest with you, it's been such a blast to share this with my 8-year-old son because he's grown up, most of where he can remember they're getting beat. And I'm like, no, this isn't how it normally is. And now we're back. And, to have Mike Vrabel be the coach of the New England Patriots is just so awesome. And he brings it's so fun to watch the games and just have him be in charge, and then to have what looks like a superstar quarterback just waltz back in after Brady left 5 years ago. It just seems surreal. But the Mike Vrabel as the head coach of the Patriots, it just feels like that was meant to happen.
Yeah, and his mustache, which he had for November, he looks like the guy that would dump you in like a burlap sack in a canal. He needs to bring that back, don't you think?
Hey man, that's if you're winning with the mustache, I wouldn't have shaved it, but yeah, maybe it'll be back next week.
Yeah. Hey, listen, have fun tonight. Most importantly, happy holidays to you and the family. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Keegan Bradley, U.S. Ryder Cup captain, part of Team Scotty tonight. We continue here. Final show of the year on 5 Clubs right after this. Back in on 5 Clubs. When that imaging gets rolled, everybody in this studio, me included, we smile because they're the dogs. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. So proud to be aligned with them, not only this year on this program, appreciate their support of what we're doing here, and so proud to be aligned with their brand for 15 years myself. Even though you cannot get this sport coat online now, it's got a little age on it. Does it look like it? No, they age beautifully. Everything does at petermillar.com, just like dogs do. So when we started the year, we said to ourselves, we love dogs. And, I'm thinking, how many dogs are on golf courses in this country? We know that they're all over the place in the UK, and it makes the experience even better. So we said, let's do Dogs of the Week. Let's see if we get some people who send in their dogs. Oh, the hounds got released. And every single week we had more than we could present. And we appreciate that. And the dogs will roll into 2026. And so today, we may have a little bonus for you. So our final edition of Dogs of the Week, release them. Who do we have for the final edition of 2025? That is Tanya, a Shih Tzu. That is Ali Natsarali's dog. He's a certified professional golf psychology coach. Tanya's got it licked, riding on the top of the little trolley there. That is Mulligan, George Slyman Jr.'s dog. That's at Cabot Links in Nova Scotia. Loves walking the golf course. It shows. Next up is Cookie. That's Scott Moss's dog. That is on the 15th green at Cuskawilla at Lake Oconee down there in Georgia. Great photograph, great looking dog. Next up, we have Tim and Diane Hamilton's dog. That's Archie, who's a Beagle Mix Rescue. That's at the Gordon Horseshoe Golf Club in Williamsburg, Virginia. Next up is Remy. That is Rachel Cavallarine's dog. That is at Nova Scotia Duck. He's a Nova Scotia Duck trolling retriever. That's at Chilliwack Golf Club in British Columbia, right there on that utility vehicle. Great looking dog. And then finally, that's Moses. Heck yeah, that's Moses. That's Suzanne Knox's dog, a 12-year-old chocolate lab at McGregor Downs. And with that regimental striped tie on, if the folks at McGregor Downs deny him entry into the main formal dining room for dinner, you should all be dismissed. Moses should sit at the center of the table. Great dogs to wrap up Dogs of the Week for 2025. But no. We're not done, because everybody around here, it's not just us saying we like dogs. Send in your dogs. We all have dogs. So let's get to the staff dogs to wrap up officially Dogs of the Week. That is Winnie. The big boss, Steve Hall, the owner of Signature Sports Group. That's the 4-year-old French bulldog right there. That is Piper. That is Jan's dog. That's Steve's wife, who really is the boss. Piper is 11-year-old Chihuahua. Those dogs are Fern and Wheezy. Fern is the lighter one, Wheezy the darker one. That's Julia Thompson's 2 dogs, both English cream golden retrievers. Wow, speaking of golden retrievers, that is Knox. That's Kerrigan Bain Santana's dog. Loves to swim, fetch, collect sticks, has energy to go on for days and days. That is Bodie. That's Justin Ottman's dog, who is our technical director, a Shih Tzu Maltese mix. That's so great. Tyler Everhart, our producer here. That is Rico, an 8-year-old Chiweenie, ready for the holidays, very festive. That is Charlie. That's Kevin Dennis, who's camera operator, also stage manager here. Charlie at the Rain Tree Country Club. What a great looking dog that is. Those 2 dogs that's Dahlia and Possum, who are Australian Shepherds. That's Jeff Barnhill's dogs, who also a camera operator. And then finally, and perfectly, that's Rolf's dog, who's our stage manager and editor. That is Bixby, taking over control. But finally, those are my 2 dogs. That is Bucky on the left, 14-and-a-half-year-old. And then on the right is Charlie. He may look like the most adorable thing in the world, and he does look that. But he really isn't. He's the world's smallest terrorist. He's the most selfish, self-centered dog in the world. But because he's so stinking cute, he owns us. Those are your Dogs of the Week. Thank you all for sending in the dogs all year, connecting you through the game of golf and them, and we will roll into 2026 with more of them. Speaking of dogs, one final thought about another moment this year is when players finish a U.S. Open at Oakmont, they look like whipped dogs. And that event delivered. Now, I didn't need all of the delays that we had with all of the weather, and the golf course was looking like it might get a little spicy because it always has some edge at Oakmont, but it got particularly wet and soft, and then we had this situation with Sam Burns on the 15th hole. But J.J. Spawn represents what Oakmont gives you. Gives you anything. If you look at the champions through time there, yes, the best players of that time certainly can win, but what Oakmont is, it's kind of an equal opportunity pugilist. It will punch anybody and knock out anybody. And that's what it generally does, and that's what it kind of did this year. Whether it was Scotty Scheffler and Rory, I thought played admirably and was showing that there was light, that after winning the Masters and the PGA was kind of a flat week. But J.J. Spawn was the guy who was the last man standing, and he was the guy who a year ago was contemplating, like, my gosh, can I prolong this? Can I keep doing this? Because he was actually kind of in peril of, am I even going to be fully exempt on the PGA Tour? And then he got to that playoff with Rory at the Players. And then, obviously, he showed up at Oakmont, and he was capable. And then he fell back. And then he started to kind of trade punches with Oakmont and everybody else, whether it was Tyrrell Hatton or Sam Burns or anybody else, Robert McIntyre, that was in his way. And then he got to that last hole and he made that putt, and you're going, my gosh, what a fitting ending to what a U.S. Open at Oakmont is supposed to be. Survival, which was great. And then one last thing about another event that might have been the most dramatic finish of all, and that was the Evian Championship. Grace Kim and Gino Tinakul. That was something that I don't particularly love the golf course there. The venue is majestic. The setting is fantastic. The golf course on the side of a hill. But what they gave us, particularly late and into that playoff, and you're going, okay, it's over. Gino's going to win this major. And then Grace Kim takes a drop and chips in for 4, and you're going, what in the world just transpired? And then they play another playoff hole, and she wraps in an eagle putt, and she wins. Those are the types of moments that are unexpected, but shouldn't we expect stuff like that to happen? Because the fickle, unfair nature of all of this stuff is what this game gives you year in and year out, even at the highest level. Look, the frivolity and the weird stuff that you see from your buddies week in and week out, those are expected. We got another hour to go. Top of the hour, Shane Lowry. Yes, the hero of the European Ryder Cup team. Nice to have you with us. Final show of the year here on 5 Clubs. Welcome back in. Yes, it's another hour. It's the final show of the year here of 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. It is great to have you with us. Again, it's the middle of December. It's been a really rewarding year for all of us, most importantly because we have great sponsorship. And I feel like I try to emphasize it every day. Their value to us, it means a ton. Starting with Century Insurance, our presenting sponsor. They want to help you with your business insurance. That's what they've done expertly with knowledge and know-how for 120 years. Golf Pride, they are the bona fide leader when it comes to golf grips around the world for players at every single level. And the best lifestyle brand, it's not just golf, it's everything you could ever imagine you would wear, whatever it is that you do in your life. It is Peter Millar, and of course their website with everything is petermillar.com. We appreciate Rory McIlroy, who joined us in the first hour of the program, as well as the U.S. Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley. In this hour, you will hear from Scotty Scheffler. We're also going to be joined by Keith Mitchell, who is going to be a part of the broadcast tonight of the Optum Golf Channel games. And if you missed the announcement we made at the beginning of the program, I'm going to give you details again before we are done, as well as kind of put a bow on this year for us, kind of looking back on how much we appreciate and give a sense of how many people were willing to indulge us in our first year here as a morning show here on Golf Channel, to give of their time, just like Rory's already done today, Keegan Bradley, and like I said, Scotty Scheffler to come, Keith Mitchell. But someone who's joining us now is somebody who was already having a fantastic career. He had already won a major championship. He won the 2019 Open Championship, and that made him the champion golfer of the year. He has won a World Golf Championship. He has been on multiple Ryder Cup teams, but this year he had a moment that all players, whether you're from Europe or the United States, can only dream of having. Now, it may not feel like a dream when you're in the middle of it, and you realize like the weight of your whole team and a continent is resting on your shoulders. But Shane Lowry raked in that putt on the 18th hole to have his match against Russell Henley, which put him in hero status for life. So with that, we are very pleased to be joined by the hero of that 2025 European Ryder Cup team and a part of Team Rory tonight for the Optum Golf Channel games. Of course, that's Shane Lowry. How you feeling?
I'm good, Gary. Thank you. Yeah, great.
Well, thanks for taking a few minutes. I know tonight will be fun. Playing for Rory, I know you have great affection for him, but are you ready to take direction from him?
I actually haven't thought about that. Yeah, I'm sure I am.
No, you're not. The answer is no. If you haven't thought about it, it means you're not going to listen to him.
I don't know. Yeah, Luke's on our team as well, so I'll probably listen to Luke. He should probably talk to me through Luke.
You know, the fun thing about tonight, Shane, is the fact that look, you guys are so skilled, but now you're adding the element of the pressure of time. You're an athlete. I mean, you grew up, your dad was a tremendous athlete. What do you think is going to be the funnest part, most entertaining part about this thing?
I just think how different it's going to be, and something that we're not used to, and seeing us golfers kind of out of our comfort zone. I know it's golf, but it's a lot different, and I think it'd be interesting for me to see the other lads. It'd be interesting for me to be in the middle of it, but I'm looking forward to it.
Let me ask you a couple of things about reflection on the year. Your match against Russell Henley, you're 2 down and you're walking across the road from 14 green to 15 tee. How much awareness did you have? Look, you're focused on your opponent, your match. How much awareness did you have that the needle looked like it could be thread by the United States? Were you fully aware of the gravity of that last 90 minutes?
Yeah, I was. I was kind of, from the 9th hole onwards that day, I was certainly aware of the situation we were in as a team. And I was aware that I probably needed to get something out of my match. And then when I went 2 down on 14, I actually there's a restroom on the way to the 15 tee, and I went in there. I didn't even need to go to the bathroom, and I just kind of took like a minute to myself just to kind of compose myself and give myself a little bit of a pep talk, and cross the road and do as best I could from there. And my big thing was, I said to my caddy walking down 15, if I can get him down 18, you never know what could happen. So, thankfully I did, and the result was the way it was. It was, it was good fun.
The thing about the 18th hole to me is, you hit a BB, and now you put more pressure on him. He misses the fairway left. He hits a fantastic bunker shot to that back left pin. I thought the 2 full shots you hit on 18 are an embodiment of performance under pressure, body and mind cooperating. How reinforcing is something like that to your overall belief system?
Yeah, it's amazing, and I can only use it as a positive going forward. I think that's the most pressure I've ever felt, and to actually stand there needing to do it not only for yourself but your team and everybody else. Those 2 shots, and obviously the putt that came after it, but those 2 shots were 2 of the best shots I've ever hit. I know the wedge shot was only 120 yards or so, but to control my ball the way I did, to flight it in there to a back pin and take the spin off it, I think was one of the best wedge shots I've ever hit.
A couple last things. The photo you guys captured together, the photo's one thing, but it's the experience of what you guys did, going to Grand Central, getting up early. You're with David Yarrow, who's this famous photographer. You're down there in Dumbo. Do you already have that photo somewhere in your home of the team?
You won't believe it. I literally just took delivery of those photos today.
Wow.
So they've arrived, and we already have a place in our house. We have a place for one in our house in Florida and one in another house in Dublin. So I'm very excited to get them on the wall, and I'll always look at that photo with such fond memories. I remember getting up at 5 a.m. on that Tuesday morning to go down to Dumbo and take that photograph. And, we were all tired. We had travelled from Wentworth, and we had played 18 holes at Bethpage the day before. But, it's a very cool moment and a very special memory.
There's no doubt. You're wearing the dark glasses. It's funny, in the capture of the European Ryder Cup social team, David was there to greet you guys when you arrived that morning. And it's funny how he went up to you. He's like, "Are you all right?" Like, "Hey, I know it's early." And you're like, "No, I'm okay. I'm okay." That to me, Shane, is, I have such appreciation for team sports. And you grew up around the culture of that with your father, giving to each other. And saying, I'm going to make myself available to you. Is that as rewarding as anything about those weeks? It's not just winning, but sharing it together, doing it together.
Yeah, and honestly, you form bonds those weeks with players that, you might never thought you'd be friendly with, or, there's always that, like I always say to the boys the week of the Ryder Cup, we'll walk past each other on the range, in 6 months' time at, maybe the US Open or the PGA Championship or a tournament we're all playing, and you won't even have to say anything to each other, but it'll be just that nod and that look that you've went through such an amazing experience together and you enjoyed it a lot, and to be successful is obviously very, very special as well.
Last thing, I asked Rory about the wine he's going to serve next spring at the Champion Center, and he said it's the wine you were so kind to get back at the rental house late that Sunday night. Look, you've known him for so long, and I honestly think from far away, my observation of you two is that the relationship has deepened. You guys play a lot of golf together. Obviously, you competed at the Zurich. You won there. What have you learned about him over the last 10 years as he was in pursuit of that major, but any major, and then for him to do it? What have you learned about him?
Yeah, I've obviously become very close to Rory over the last number of years, and I think as our friendship has kind of blossomed through our wives and our kids, and where we live here in Florida, where we spend a lot of time together. But I guess I don't know what I've learned so much about him, but for myself, I feel very fortunate to be able to spend some time with one of the greatest golfers of all time, and to watch him go through what he's gone through over the last 10 years, trying to achieve the career Grand Slam, and to watch him do that this year was very, very cool. And I think, I have a lot of admiration for him as a person, even, not only as a friend, but as a person, what he's gone through, and to come out the other side of it, and, all the kind of criticism he's taken over the years. And it's just, very cool to be able to sit back and watch one of your good friends do what he's done.
Have fun tonight. I appreciate you taking the time. Happy holidays. Thanks so much.
Will do. Thanks, Gary. Cheers. Happy holidays, you.
You bet. Thank you. That is Shane Lowry, of course. He's now the second Irishman that can now dine out on a putt at the Ryder Cup. McGinley thought he had it all to himself. Nope, Shane has joined his company. We take a break, continue with you here on 5 Clubs. Final day of the year right after this. Welcome back. Our final show of the year here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. This segment is brought to you by Golf Pride. We've been very lucky to have them aligned with us all year. Looking forward to them continue with us in 2026. When it comes to materials and options, there is nobody better. That's why they're trusted by the most players around the world. It is Golf Pride. All right, joining us now, we needed somebody who could be perfectly appointed in his outfit, which would mesh with all of the furnishings in the room that he's residing in. There's only one guy on tour who can do that. He's Cashmere Keith. Look at him. Can anybody else put together a long sleeve shirt, pocketed, breast pocket, with the furnishings in the room? Look at you.
Gary, this was a complete accident. It's very kind of you to say. I'm at my buddy Matt Horner's house. I'm staying down here for the Golf Channel games and just woke up because we had an 11-hour day on the set yesterday. And so I appreciate the compliment, but it was an accident.
All right. I love how you said, God, we had an 11-hour day. This is a job, as you're finding out. I know that it's interesting to see somebody who I know has had a curiosity in the broadcast side of what you're a part of, which is a TV show, golf at the highest level. How about doing this? What was your curiosity about saying, you know what? I'm not going to do a traditional broadcast. We're going to step into something that's brand new, no one's ever seen before. What have you learned?
I've got so much respect for all you guys now, because seeing how much work goes in behind the scenes to make sure everything's flowing correctly, and all the takes and the interviews and just how much manpower goes into producing a show is something that I did not understand before yesterday. And so I have a really great appreciation for that. I mean, again, we were there for 11 hours. I was there from 12 to 11 p.m. And to see what all goes into the show is amazing. In this show specifically, I mean, this is something that, I didn't really know about until a couple months ago, and had only done any sort of traditional golf. Now it's the off season for me now, so I had the time and the availability to do it. But something this fun and this skills challenge was, it's difficult. It's more difficult than I thought, but it's going to be fun.
You know, Keith, we had Rory on earlier, Shane Lowry, Keegan Bradley, Scotty's coming up in a little bit, all part of this thing tonight. And I asked Rory, like, how can this work effectively for a TV audience? How do you think and look, you guys have a responsibility to kind of explain this as it goes along. What do you think are the keys to making this not only entertaining but understandable?
Not talk over each other. We got 11 people mic'd up. So you got the 8 players with mics, you got Sands and I in the booth, and then you have Smiley, Johnson, and Fax. Actually, I think that's 13 people. 13 people with the ability to speak at any given time. So there's definitely going to be plenty of content, plenty of entertainment, and we're going to have fun with each other. I think that's going to lead the show. And then obviously the players' ability to hit incredible shots, play the team relay, play that very effectively. I think that's a lot of fun. I did the rehearsal yesterday and then watched some other guys do it. That's going to be a fun part. And then at the end of the day, it's who's going to win the competition. There's a point structure, so it's not traditional golf. So if Sands and I can get that across, I think it'll be a great, great evening.
If anybody can translate numerical understanding, it's Mr. Whiteboard himself, Steve Sands. You're in good hands. Let me ask you about Scheffler, because look, your perspective on a lot of things in your business is interesting. You preceded him on the tour by a couple years, and then he joins and he starts ascending. What about him do you fixate on, or that you're taken with, that just with every passing week, every passing season, you're like, really? What does he do that you are particularly taken with?
I think it's his ability to prepare and to play like it's life or death. I mean, the guy acts like it's no big deal and it doesn't matter. And that's fine. That's a great perspective to have. But if you watched him practice and then watched him play, if he was, in 15th place, like, the guy doesn't want to finish 16th. He doesn't care if it's 14th, 11th, 12th, first. He wants to win. Now, again, I understand the fulfillment side of him. I completely agree with everything he says. But if you look at it as a competitor of him versus me or him versus any other player, you can see that run through every single day. It's not just between 1 and 18. It's Wednesday, it's Tuesday, it's Monday, and it's his weeks off at home when nobody's watching, how much effort he's putting in.
Keith, it's a great contrast between him and Rory, because Rory, there's a flair, there's a vulnerability, as we've seen. As somebody like yourself who can make the ball small really quickly, Rory, I think, is like, when you walk a range on a tour, it's hard to differentiate. You all are aliens in terms of what you do and how you do it. But with him, is it because he's smaller and has this insane launch? Is it the launch itself? What is it about Rory that you find so captivating?
I think he has one of the highest ceilings I've ever seen of a player. Scotty has shown that his floor, now that he's kind of got himself where he wants to be, is really high, and he doesn't ever come down from that. But Rory's ceiling, I think, is the highest in golf. And I think that's because of his talent, number one, but his swing and his speed and his ability to make that solid contact, which turns a 7-iron into 205 yards. Not many people can do that. And I played with Rory on the weekend up in Canada when he won a couple years back, and everybody's used to watching him hit these towering high draws. Well, there was a couple holes out there that did not fit that. There was a couple tree-lined, short, dogleg rights, and he hit these drivers that came off head high and started cutting, something that I had never seen. So Rory has the ability to work the ball, move the ball, and play at a level that I truly think may be the highest in golf right now.
And let me ask you about somebody in Luke Clanton, because as somebody who not only played in a space in college that you were around guys you knew were going to play for a living, you played in high school with guys, and I don't know that you looked at, Steven Yeager, I don't know if he looked at you and went, yeah, we're all going to make a living doing this at the Baylor School. I have no idea, probably not. But I honestly think, Keith, now that these young people have a stench of belief that is pungent. It's like, yeah, I know I belong here. What do you think that the root cause of that is over the last decade or so?
Gary, that is a great question, and I don't have a good answer for it because I'm truly in shock of it as well. There's no way at that age of Luke that I was going to be able to compete on the PGA Tour, let alone finish top 10 two times in a row when I came out as, if I even had the ability to play as an amateur. So those, and Akshay Bhatia coming out in his teens and doing this, Sung J.M., like to look at where I was in my life when I was their age, when they were playing on the PGA Tour, I can't comprehend it either. Like, truthfully, like I don't have a good answer because it's crazy to me that these kids are so good and so comfortable out here doing what they're doing. And that's probably why they're going to have a long career and be great at this game. And maybe I need to go ask them and ask some of their tips.
All right, before we let you go, look, you're aligned with Sid Mashburn, who's a tremendous haberdasher. Style, is that terry cloth? Does that have some terry cloth in it? That shirt?
It is. It is.
I mean, come on, man. How good is that? That is money. Give me guys with style. Give me your all-style team on the PGA Tour.
It's gotten to the point now where you're basically choosing companies. And I say that because just about every player on the PGA Tour is either sponsored or an ambassador of a clothing brand, and they're wearing what that clothing brand is telling them to, or it just in that window of what they make. And I was very fortunate to kind of do the opposite with Sid, is like I went to Sid because that's what I wanted to do. So if you're asking me to say who I think is great style, it would have to be off the course.
Well, give me some guys who know how to dress if they're going to a cocktail party or to dinner with friends or a dinner party. Like who knows how to put off the apparel they got to wear and show some style?
Justin Thomas isn't afraid to do something like that. I will say his style is different than mine, which, again, this is not, choosing one style or the other. He has the ability to look sharp, and he might be a tennis shoe guy with a suit, which I'm not, but still, he can pull it off, and that's his style. And I think he is completely underrated off the golf course in terms of how he likes to look.
All right, last thing. I know you like to get to places. Look, a lot of guys who make a living doing this don't pursue recreational golf. I know you like to see places. Any place you played this year you were particularly smitten with that you hadn't seen before?
Well, I'd seen it before. That's I answered that question too quickly.
Calusa Pines. That's a great haunt. Anywhere new that you liked?
God, good question. I don't, Gary, I don't know. The schedule was similar. I did play in Tokyo this year and in Yokohama Country Club. That golf course was a lot of fun because if you looked at the scoring discrepancies, when it was windy, people were shooting around par, and then when it was calm, people could shoot 8, 9 under. Like that's a fun golf course because it's difficult when the conditions are right, and then it's you can take it low if you play well. So I got to give the tournament in Japan this year some credit. That golf course is a lot of fun.
Very good. Hey, listen, have fun tonight. Looking forward to watching this, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks to you, Gary.
Okay, there is Keith Mitchell. Tonight here on Golf Channel, the Optum Golf Channel games, when we continue. Scotty Scheffler, #1 player in the world, will join us here on 5 Clubs. Back in on 5 Clubs, final show of the year here at Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio. That's Sirius XM Channel 92. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. PeterMillar.com is your answer for anything you need to get anybody. I mean anybody for anything and wherever they need to wear it. It's PeterMillar.com. All right, joining us now, he just won his 4th Jack Nicklaus Award, Player of the Year on the PGA Tour, the #1 player in the world. He won 2 majors this year. He will captain his team tonight in the Optum Golf Channel games starting at 7, pregame 7:30. They'll get it started. Golf Channel and USA Network. He, of course, is Scotty Scheffler. How you feeling, Captain?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, it's good to be here in Florida. Weather's a bit warmer than it is in Dallas right now, so that's always nice.
What is going to be your captaincy style? Do we have any idea? Are you going to be overbearing? Are you going to bark at your players? How are you going to be?
I have a lot of faith in my players. I think I'm going to be a bit more of a hands-off type of leader, especially if I try and tell Keegan something. He was really my captain this year, so that part's going to feel a little bit weird.
All right, for those folks who don't know, we have a checkered past, me giving you movie references, but we're on a streak. You got one in a row back at the PGA. So I'm going to say this line from a great captain coach, and you tell me the movie. Great moments are born from great opportunity, and that's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9, but not this game, not tonight. What's that movie?
That's Miracle.
I think you should say that to your team before you head out. Not tonight.
Well, I don't know if they beat us 9 times out of 10. I don't know if this is as insurmountable as the Miracle was, but great moments are born from great opportunity. So.
You're right. Yeah, you need to edit that down to they may beat us 2 out of 3. I don't know. You're right. The odds are not that stacked. Were you good at skills as a kid?
I'd like to think I have good skills within the game of golf.
Yes, you do.
When I think of playing growing up, if there was something that we could do competitively on the golf course with my buddies growing up, we were doing it. If it was a chipping contest, a putting contest, if we were trying to hit the range of Royal Oaks I grew up on had these poles that we would try and hit as targets instead of flags. And so if you hit the pole, it made a big loud noise. And if you name the contest, we probably tried it when we were kids.
In talking to Rory, and I asked him about the things that he appreciates about you, and one of the things he said is that you're not even curious about celebrity. But you know this, that with the more you accomplish, more people are interested in more than just golf. Like, what do you have to say about various things? Do you sense that your words are getting weightier in the game?
I'm not really sure. I think when I get asked questions, I try to answer them as honestly as possible. And, with the amount of time I think I've spent in front of a microphone at press conferences over the last few years, I think the people asking the questions are probably tired of asking the same things and me pretty much giving the same answers because a lot of stuff doesn't quite change for me. And so when things are asked and they're more interesting, I'll try and give an honest answer, but it all just depends on the questions that I'm asked, and I try to answer them honestly.
Scotty, one thing that has happened over the last couple of years, when you added Phil Kenyon, and if you look at stats and where they were and where they are now, they're so appreciably better. It's not just like one area of putting, it's in every area, whether it's 10 to 15 feet, 1-putt percentage, 3-putt avoidance, overall strokes gained putting. What were the transformational elements to what he implemented with you that has produced the type of data you produced this year?
Well, I think with Phil, he's first of all, he's been a tremendous asset for me on the golf course. I mean, he's been tremendous for us. That was something new for me. I'd never had a coach outside of Randy before my whole life, and Phil is really the first guy that we brought in to help us with something. And he's been tremendous. He's worked hand in hand with Randy, and he's done a really good job. I have a lot of faith and trust in the things that he brings to the table, and he's extremely smart. He's a humble guy. He doesn't really want to be in the spotlight. He just likes helping players get better. And I just have a lot of trust in him and the things that he wants to work on. And I feel like we have a good rapport in terms of if there's something that he suggests that I don't really love, I'll pretty quickly let him know, and then we'll kind of pivot from there. But overall, I really put a lot of trust in him. And I think really he's just helped me kind of clear my head when it comes to putting, because I grew up being a great putter. I had to be a good chipper putter. I was a little kid growing up. I had to chip and putt better than everybody else if I wanted to compete, just because I hit the ball so much shorter. And so struggling for a year or two on the PGA Tour with my putting was quite frustrating. And I always had the mentality that if something wasn't working, I was going to figure it out. And I think I just put too much emphasis on my putting. And Phil has kind of helped me release a little bit of that tension, focus on the process, and get back to doing the things that I'm really good at within my stroke, and give myself a chance to hold putts.
I know one thing that you don't do much of. It's not genuflecting on what was already done, projecting what's ahead. You're where your feet are. But indulge me, is there a moment from this past year where whether it was your patience or whatever it might be, in a competition got to a point that was tested as much as any time during the course of the year? I have a moment, and you can say, no, that wasn't it.
Well, you give me your moment first, and then I'll tell you if you're
Okay, when you were
I agree.
when you're walking off the 8th green at Quail Hollow in the final round, and meanwhile Bryson and Rahm are making a run. You get to the 9th, which is a very hard hole. You know you got 10 coming up, which is a par 5 that again, I'm sitting here going, this is what I know he needs to do. You're playing a shot at a time. I thought that was as, not stressful, but as challenging a time in terms of patience and just sticking to process as maybe you had all year.
Yeah, typically I would use 2 examples for that. I think with both the major championships that I won last year, the Open and the PGA, I think specifically when you look at the PGA Championship, I think I had a 3-shot lead to start the day, and I'd lost that lead by the time we made the turn. And winning major championships was always going to be difficult. And I had put myself in a great position to where I could have a really good Sunday and not have too much stress going down the back nine. All of a sudden, we're making the turn and the tournament's tied. And there's a lot of opportunity on the back nine, and it's also very challenging as well. But did a really good job of staying patient. Teddy was tremendous for me during that round. And, I think I ended up bogey number 9. And then Teddy gave me a little tip with my shoulder alignment off the tee on 10. I hit the fairway, hit up by the green, ended up making birdie. And it was kind of like, all right, I'm in a good spot now. I finally hit a fairway and was able to play some really nice golf from there to close that tournament out.
Yeah, you did. And the proximity was interesting. Rahm's on 13, you're on 10. You know those are 2 holes that are very close together. And obviously, you took advantage of 14 and 15. A couple more things before I let you go. Next year, with the density of all these signature series events, do you worry at all about the top players being able to show up and play all of this big time tournament golf in such a condensed period of time?
Yeah, I mean, the golf schedule is turning into more of a sprint for sure, especially trying to finish, in September. There's, it's quick from January to September. It's a pretty quick season. And I haven't fully set my schedule for the next year, but there's definitely some weeks where I would love to be able to play, but it's important for me to be able to be rested, to be able to go back out and compete. I would love to be able to play every week on the PGA Tour. I mean, the PGA Tour does such a good job of running tournaments and giving us great places to play and treating us so well. I mean, being on the road playing the PGA Tour is a pretty easy ask. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, I can't play every week, even though I wish I could.
All right, we're going to do this in 60 seconds. 5 quick questions, 5 to go for Scotty Scheffler. What's the best shot you saw this year? Not from you. What's the best shot somebody struck that you were a witness to?
The best shot I saw this year? My goodness, I can barely remember some of my shots, let alone anybody else's shots.
Why do you focus so much? See, I need somebody who is distracted and is looking at other players. That's not you. So you don't have one?
Gosh. I don't know. I'm trying to think. That's a really hard one for me. My memory and recall of stuff like that. It's even difficult for me to remember my own shots.
Okay.
Let alone somebody else's.
All right. Then when was you better remember this. The last movie you and Meredith saw in a movie theater.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be 0 for 2.
You haven't gone to a movie? I know Bennett. I mean, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of commitment.
I've probably been to a movie theater 3 times in the last 15 years, 20 years of my life. I can tell you the last movie we watched was the other night. We watched Home Alone 2. Tremendous. Home Alone 2.
Strong. Very good sequel. Excellent sequel.
But yeah, no, not a big movie theater guy.
Did you see Top Gun Maverick in a movie theater?
Nope. Waited for it to come out on TV, but Mary and I watched that one. We did watch that one.
All right, very good. All right, the condiment in your fridge that is used the most?
Chipotle mayonnaise.
Oh, solid. All right, the easy and best thing to eat while driving. What is it?
The easy and best thing to eat while driving? I mean, I try not to eat too much behind the wheel, but any sort of like sandwich or like a small, like a taco, something like that would be quite easy.
Don't you think French fries? Don't you think fries are the easiest thing? You put them between your lap.
I mean, fries would work, but a sandwich, I can hold on to a sandwich with one hand and one hand on the wheel, and that's pretty easy.
No, I'm not going to call you off your answer. All right, last thing. You love sports. The current athlete you're most entertained by right now?
I mean, I love the NFL. I think I mean, I think the NFL for me is the most fun to watch. And so one of my favorite things is being able to turn on the TV on Sunday, watching Red Zone, catching up on all the games. But as far as players, I mean, I love my Cowboys. You know, it's been a tough season so far, but I can't not watch the Cowboys. They're like a drug for me. I always go back. And so anybody on the Cowboys, I mean, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I think you always love seeing guys do great things. And right now, I feel like there's so much talent in the NFL. On any given night or game, you're going to see something tremendous, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Now, do you do red zone or do you quad box? Like, I like watching 4 games at once.
I'll typically go red zone, and then if not a ton is happening and there's a good game on in my my area, or you know, they kind of block out certain games. So if there's a good game on in my area, I'll try to watch that one. I also like listening to Romo when he announces. I think it's hilarious listening to him and Nance. I think they're great. So I'll try and watch that as well.
Yeah, I don't think, I swear, sometimes I think Tony thinks he's sitting in his living room. Like, he says, like, abstract stuff, and Jim's going to break, and he's still talking. It honestly, it's like, yeah, really? Am I working here? No, it really is funny.
It is. It's fun to watch.
All right, listen, have fun tonight with your team, the Optum Golf Channel games. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Congratulations on a really special year, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Gary. All the best.
You bet. That is Scotty Scheffler, the #1 player in the world. Sandwich for the easy thing to drive and eat. We take a break, continue our final show of the year right after this. Back in here, our final show of the year of 2025 on 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. And this segment brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Century Insurance. They're invested in golf with the USGA, with the First Tee. So proud to be aligned with them this year and going into 2026. We thank them. At the beginning of the program, in addition to letting you know who was going to be on the show today, which included Rory McIlroy, Scottie Scheffler, Keith Mitchell, Shane Lowry, Keegan Bradley, was us announcing something that we're embarking on for the first time, and it will be August of next year. And a couple of years ago, when Landmand was created in Homer, Nebraska, it became a phenomenon, because when they would put their tee sheet online on New Year's Eve, it would be full in about an hour. It'd probably be full sooner if the technology moved faster. I'm not saying the technology is faulty. It's just that's how quickly you can fill a tee sheet for the year. So in August of 2026, we are headed to Homer, Nebraska, to the Heartland, to the Heartbeat, because this place is where everybody from all over is descending upon to play golf, on a place that is really a marvel, kind of miraculous, that this land has been turned into just a fun factory of golf holes by Tad King and Rob Collins and their amazing design team. So a 3-day competition in the heart of America. Teams from every state in this country represented at Landmand. 5 clubs and Landmand, the Heartbeat. That registration will be the same night, same day that their registration to book tee times for the year, New Year's Eve. So we'll remind you on all of our social platforms over the next couple of weeks. But from New Hampshire to Illinois to Iowa to Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Maine, Florida, every single state, 2-person teams playing a 3-day competition. And this program will originate live from Landmand for that competition. We're very excited. Will Anderson, his awesome staff and team there to embark upon this with them is going to be a ton of fun. So write that down, New Year's Eve. If you and a friend, partner want to participate and represent your state, there'll be only 1 team per state at the Heartbeat. All right, this year, you know, we've been lucky enough to do this program live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday every single week this year. And when it started, look, we had a plan, but the plan of execution was only going to be as good as the indulgence from people who make the stories, make the names, drive the conversation in the game of golf. So here is a look back on 5 Clubs, our year in golf. Well, hello again. Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
Thank you for having me on.
I'm so stoked about you being back. You are a vital part of our game.
And that is Bryson DeChambeau, very kind enough to join us.
He's a very resilient player.
I do love golf. It's like a microwave for relationships.
They want entertainment.
It was about 8:20 and I could feel my phone vibrating. Harold's calling me while I'm in the middle of doing this show.
Yeah, I'm on. I tend to be a little late.
There he is.
All the way to the green. It was, whoo, boy, was that fun.
Thank you.
I always found it quite funny.
Oddly enough, at 7 o'clock every night, we watch Wheel of Fortune. Hey, I gotta like it if my wife likes it.
85 for Jack Nicklaus. Wagyu and filet, a little steak for breakfast. And I'm speaking of Paige Sporanic. Good morning.
I was running junior golf clinics and caddying.
Least favorite smell, I'm gonna have to say the smell of my daughter in the morning when she's just taking a dump. I probably shouldn't say that live on TV.
You already have. Where is he? Emma Carpenter's covering college golf. 2 hours today for us. It is the Tour's major.
Something tells me, though, Gary, they're going to be a little more aggressive.
Gabby Herzig, she joins me now.
There's nothing like it. If you have any tips, I'm all ears.
We are at the James Hardy Pro Football Hall of Fame Invitational in Boca Raton.
We're voted #1 on the Pro-Ams.
This week, it's Masters Week. Rory's Rubicon, knowing that if he wins the Masters tournament, he goes into truly the granite legend category of winning the career Grand Slam.
My goodness, Gary, what we witnessed yesterday.
It was an emotional week. Like, it was emotional for him.
People will travel far and wide to search out something that's compelling and authentic.
It's his life. It's his pro's life. It is Monday of the PGA Championship week at Quail Hollow, which is about 12 to 15 minutes down the road.
It was seriously a video game out there for Scotty Scheffler.
I'm very fortunate.
We are at the Memorial Tournament. What a privilege to be here at Muirfield Village Golf Club in Dublin, Ohio.
And he just acted very competitive.
The place that Jack built. I don't know if you're going to take a sip of this milkshake. I'm going to. We are honored and privileged to be at Congaree Golf Club. The opening ceremony of the Arnold Palmer Cup is today.
This has to be one of the most beautiful, serene, and wonderful places.
It's what this event gives. Good afternoon. Welcome to Oakmont. Boy, it is nice to say that.
And we're so excited to have the greatest players in the world come here this week.
Birdieing the last 2 holes to win a U.S. Open on that beast.
I'm just a dude. I happen to be good at golf.
You play as much golf as you can.
What else can you do that's going to give you that much enjoyment?
It's just a very unique situation that I'm in.
The United States Ryder Cup captain, Keegan Bradley.
I think the European team is incredibly strong. It's the same 12 guys.
What is your gas station / convenience store guilty pleasure?
Probably a can of Zin.
That wouldn't have been in my top 10. Chris Goddard, a really great story.
To poke a little fun if I feel like it's needed.
When we're done, it is live from the Open.
And now he heads into the playoffs. He's obviously the favorite.
Just got to the course here at East Lake and ready to get started.
Oh, did he have a couple moments?
With Brian Rolap now at the helm.
Let's talk about the American team.
More of a full-blown match.
It's getting harder to win out here.
Bones, good to see you.
Happy Ryder Cup week to everybody out there. Can't wait to get going.
The crowd are loud and truly is one of the most incredible feelings.
Dogs at 5clubsgolf.com. Let's get to our dogs of the week. We want to recognize all the dogs. The winner of the Club 5 for the year is going to be the recipient of that walnut window pane Peter Millar jacket. He's headed to Dallas, Texas. 46 long.
The season that he's had is probably more life-giving.
Is there something you love?
You got to remember, Gary, I don't get out much.
14 hours ago, he wrapped in a putt on 18 to win by 2 at the Sanderson Farms.
Grayson had so many friends out there.
We continue Design Week. All of these designers, thankfully for all of us, they're incredibly busy.
It looked like a golf course before we started.
Teachers Week continues. There are so many great people who teach the game of golf.
How do you get better is always a question these guys are asking.
2-time major champion, gold medalist as well.
And I'm pretty cool with Keegan, and he's like, there's a lot of stuff going
on. My pleasure. I'm a big fan of what you're building. You do a hell of a job.
Appreciate all the work that you guys do at Friday Golf.
I knew YouTube Golf it was already kind of growing a lot.
You're a full zip cashmere type of guy. We just know this. It is known.
My wife's like, can you shut up? There's no mic in this house.
I actually haven't thought about that.
I don't know. I'm kind of into a little different look.
Yeah, there's so many things I'll remember about that day. Winning major championships is always going to be difficult. Did a really good job of staying patient. I've always wanted to be on 5 clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Well, as the staff, we got together, we reviewed Rory's season, and there was a little bit of dissent saying, I don't know, did he win enough? Yes, he earned his spot. It's amazing to me when I look at that, the willingness and indulgence of so many people to come on this program. It's been a very fulfilling year for us. And to show you just how good our team is, the fact that those guys were on this show today and they turned it around and put it at the end to put a bow on our year with Scotty, Rory, Keegan, and Shane Lowry is pretty remarkable. The events that we went to for people like James Hardy and the Memorial and the Arnold Palmer Cup and the U.S. Open and Mackenzie Hughes' foundation event here in Charlotte and Grayson Murray's event in Raleigh, North Carolina. We thank them for allowing us to be a part of what are all obviously special events that all have different meanings, certainly. We're talking about from competitions to raising money to trying to help in certain areas as well. Speaking of help, this show doesn't happen without certain people. Steve Hall, who owns Signature Sports Group, without him, none of this exists. And the team around all of this, from the Signature Sports side /5 clubs, certainly is very significant. James McCoy and Kerrigan Santana and Julia Thompson. We've added Eric Gibson, who's got big-time business and golf chops. Very proud. And then on the production side, I think about Tyler and Justin and Kevin and Jameson and Rolf and Marty and Sean. So good at what they do, so committed to what they do every day. As I tell them, I don't see anybody or hear anybody other than you guys. You are my window to the world that we're trying to enter into outside of these walls. And what they give me every day is positivity and enthusiasm and professionalism. And then finally to the folks at Golf Channel, Tom Knapp, who made the call to me 20 months ago, he is my ambassador of Quan. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about fulfillment. Andrea Starkey as well. All the people up there, and certainly Matt Hegarty and Laz and everybody who is committed to giving us, and let me just say lastly, Alex and Courtney, hey, without you, none of this happens. And let me end with this, because this is our motto here for everybody who loves golf. As we say here, it's about the time, not the score. Thank you for making time for us in your world of golf. We look forward to 2026. We'll start it January 7th. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas from all of us. We'll see you next year.